Your 20s are supposed to be the best years of your life. That's what everyone says. But behind closed doors, most of us feel lost. You scroll through social media and wonder, am I doing enough? Why does everyone else seem ahead? Is it too late for me? You chase money, validation, and clarity. But all you find is pressure. And that's when it hits you. No one told you what actually matters in this decade. So most people waste it chasing what looks good instead of building what lasts. Your 20s aren't just a phase, they're the foundation. The habits, beliefs, and decisions you build here will compound for the next 40 years. But no one teaches you how to use this time well. So you follow the crowd, you avoid failure, you chase certainty, you play safe, and slowly you start feeling behind. Hi, I'm Declan. For the last 5 years, I've been on a mission to figure this game out, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And today, I want to share 8 brutal lessons I've learned so you can stop surviving your 20s. Chapter 1: Play bold, not safe. Most people in their 20s are scared of failure. They say, I can't afford to take risks. What if I mess up? What if I lose money or look stupid? But here's the truth: this is the one decade where failure is cheap. When you start from zero, your downside is limited. No kids, no mortgage, no six-figure lifestyle to maintain. Just you and time. And that makes your 20s the best lab you'll ever get. To build, to experiment, to throw yourself into things you don't fully understand yet. Because when the cost of failure is low, the cost of not trying becomes massive. Start that business. Apply for the role you think you're not qualified for. Launch the idea that's been haunting your Notes app for months. Move cities. Take the wild path even if no one around you gets it. Because here's the thing: most people in their 30s and 40s aren't stuck because they failed. They're stuck because they never tried. Regret doesn't come from action, it comes from staying still, from playing so safe that your life starts to feel like a cage. And no, you don't need to get it right, you just need to move. Because movement is where momentum is built, and even your failures will become data, giving you clarity, feedback, and direction faster than any classroom ever could. That leads to the next truth most people miss. Chapter 2: Experience is equity. If your 20s are a lab, then every test, every experiment, even the ones that fail, becomes experience equity. It's easy to think the most important thing right now is money. And yes, I know money matters. But experience compounds in ways money never can. That toxic boss, that project that went nowhere, that job you hated, that client who rejected you, that's equity. That's pattern recognition. That's wisdom you can fake. But most people treat these like setbacks. They run, quit, blame, complain. They miss the most important part. Those reps were training. And if you internalize them, if you reflect and learn, they'll become tools you use for the rest of your life. Because in your 20s, what you earn isn't just income, it's insight, it's resilience, it's range. You don't become wise by reading quotes, you become wise by going through things most people avoid. That's why exposure to difficult work, diverse environments, uncomfortable projects matters more than job title or pay at this stage. You're not just working jobs, you're collecting data about what works, what doesn't, what breaks you, and what makes you stronger. And when you're 35, you'll realize the people who took the most risks early, who worked the messy roles, who tried and failed, who sat with the pain and extracted the lesson. Those are the ones who build real leverage. So the question is, Are you collecting paychecks or are you collecting patterns? Your 20s are your apprenticeship for the rest of your life. And experience, especially painful experience, is the most undervalued asset most people miss. Chapter 3: Build habits that hurt now but heal later. By now, you've probably heard this 100 times. Discipline is freedom. Consistency beats intensity. Motivation fades, systems stay. But most people don't take it seriously until they're already paying the price. See, your 20s are your prime building ground, not just for career, not just for income, but for yourself. Because here's the thing no one says out loud: you're not just going to wake up in your 30s with energy, confidence, clarity, and resilience. Those things are earned through habits that feel boring now but make life effortless later. Let's get brutally honest. Eating clean feels restrictive, but so does having health issues at 35. Sleeping 7 hours a night sounds unproductive, but so is being tired every day for 10 years. Working out feels hard, but being in pain because your body gave up on you? That's harder. Reading, journaling, meditating, they don't give you dopamine, but they give you control over your thoughts, your triggers, your patterns, your reactions. The uncomfortable truth is, discipline looks like punishment now, but it becomes privilege later. Because once these habits are embedded into your system, you don't need to try hard to be stable, you just are. That stability becomes your edge. When others burn out, you keep going. When others overreact, you respond with clarity. When others spiral emotionally, you stay centered. That's not luck, that's internal infrastructure built from years of quiet, boring reps. And no, it's not about being perfect. You'll still eat trash sometimes. You'll still miss workouts. You'll still scroll mindlessly once in a while. But when your baseline is strong, you bounce back fast. And that's the goal: to build a life that doesn't collapse the moment things get hard. Because they will get hard. And you don't want to spend your 30s fixing what your 20s broke. You want to arrive in that next chapter strong, stable, and self led. So embrace the hard things now: the early mornings, the 1 hour workouts, the digital detox, the quiet reflection. They don't give you instant reward, but they build compound interest on your energy, your mental clarity, your confidence, your capacity to execute. Most people chase hacks. The smart ones build habits. Because willpower will lose eventually. Your systems become your safety net. And if you build those now, you'll thank yourself every day for the rest of your life. Chapter 4: Ambition is cheap, execution pays. If you spend enough time around people in their 20s, you'll hear some version of this. I'm going to build something big. I want to be financially free. I'm planning to start a business. Next year, I'll go all in. And don't get me wrong, ambition is good. But here's the hard truth most people avoid: ambition without execution is just a socially acceptable form of procrastination. In today's world, talking about big dreams is easy. You get likes, retweets, and encouragement. It feels productive even when you haven't done anything yet. But you can't deposit ideas into your bank account. You can't build wealth from thinking about business models. You don't get confidence from planning in your head. You only build momentum when you ship. You only grow when you try, fail, fix, and repeat. You only improve by doing, not dreaming. The gap between knowing and doing, that's where 99% of people get stuck. They've read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, written pages of goals, but when it's time to execute, silence. They get caught in overthinking, paralyzed by perfectionism, stuck in research mode for months. Why? Because doing feels risky. When you act, you might fail. You might look dumb. You might prove to yourself that you're not as ready as you thought. But here's the reframe: clarity doesn't come before action, it comes from action. You won't figure it out by sitting still. You figure it out by launching the offer and adjusting when no one buys. You figure it out by making $100 badly before making $1,000 efficiently. Nothing will ever be perfect the first time. And yet, most people wait for perfect, the perfect idea, the perfect time, the perfect version of themselves. Here's a secret: that version of you, it never comes. Because the only thing that makes you better is action. That's why execution is the real differentiator. Everyone wants success, but few are willing to look stupid chasing it. But the people you admire, they didn't wait until they were ready. They started, they stumbled, they iterated, and they moved faster, not because they were smarter, but because they were braver. They were willing to suck, willing to test, willing to be seen failing, while others stay safe overthinking. And every time they did, they closed the gap between who they were and who they wanted to become. So ask yourself, what are you avoiding doing by telling yourself you're still getting ready? Because your results won't come from more thinking, they'll come from more shipping. Hit publish, make the call, send the pitch, test the thing, fail fast, fail forward. Execution is the bridge between your potential and your future. And the longer you delay that first step, the longer you stay stuck in a loop of frustration disguised as ambition. Chapter 5: Audit your circle, or your circle will shape you. If chapter 4 was about doing, this one's about becoming. Because here's a brutal truth most people ignore: you are not just a product of your habits, you are a product of who you surround yourself with. In your 20s, your circle matters more than ever. Because this is the decade where your beliefs, standards, and identity solidify. And whether you realize it or not, the people around you are either normalizing your excuses or challenging your potential. Let me ask you, are your friends talking about ideas or just complaining about work? Do they celebrate your growth or feel threatened by it? Do they invest in themselves or mock self development? Do they talk about building or just blame? Because if you're constantly surrounded by people who fear risk, avoid discomfort, and numb their anxiety through mindless distraction, you will absorb it even if you think you won't. And that energy, it bleeds into your confidence, your ambition, and your decisions. Before you know it, you've internalized the limits as your own. This isn't about being elitist or cutting people off randomly. It's about consciously choosing what energy you allow in your space. You don't need rich friends, you need aligned friends. People who think deeply, work hard, reflect honestly, call you out when you're hiding, push you when you're coasting. Because sometimes it's not your lack of motivation holding you back, it's your environment numbing your ambition. Here's the real trap: most people stay in the wrong circles because they fear loneliness. They'd rather feel accepted in mediocrity than feel alone while growing. But growth is lonely at first, and that's okay. Because when you start evolving, you create space, and eventually that space gets filled with the right people. The kind who don't need to flex because they're focused, the kind who ask deep questions instead of small talk, the kind who are building something, not waiting for something. You become who you feel safe being around. So make sure you feel safe being authentic, ambitious, and awake. And if you can't find the right circle right now, that's fine. Be the one who starts it, create that energy, stand in your standards, protect your space like your future depends on it, because it does. In your 20s, you don't just build wealth, you build your ecosystem. So choose your circle with intention, because that circle becomes your mirror, and that mirror becomes your momentum. Chapter 6: Master Due Diligence or Be Led Blindly. The internet gave us access to everything, but that access came with a price: overload, noise, distraction, manipulation. In your 20s, you'll hear 1,000 voices telling you what to do. Crypto is the future. You must own a house before 30. This side hustle made me $100,000 in 2 months. You're wasting time if you're not monetizing your passion. And here's the problem: most people confuse loudness with credibility and urgency with truth. But in reality, some of the worst decisions you'll ever make will be the ones that felt right but weren't actually right for you. Because you didn't pause, you didn't investigate, you didn't ask hard questions. In your 20s, you're hungry, curious, ambitious, but that same fire can burn you if you don't learn how to filter noise from wisdom. Due diligence is not just a skill, it's survival. It protects you from scams disguised as mentorship, investments hyped up by FOMO, business partners who only sell dreams, advice that sounds intelligent but lacks depth. Look, the world doesn't care if you're young and naive. Some people will bang on your inexperience, they will overpromise, they will manipulate, they will sell shortcuts to a destination they've never been to themselves. And if you don't do your homework, you'll pay the price with time, trust, and money. So start asking better questions. What's the incentive behind this advice? Has this person walked the path or just talked about it? What are the risks that no one is mentioning? Is this aligned with my stage of life and values? Discernment is your responsibility, not theirs. You don't need to be paranoid, but you do need to be precise. Trust is earned through patterns, not vibes. Opportunities are validated through logic, not pressure. And the real signal always survives beyond the noise. The truth is, in your 20s, you'll still fall for some things. You'll still get burned once or twice. That's part of the game. But don't repeat the same lesson twice. Get sharper, ask smarter, cross check more. Learn how systems, incentives, and games work beneath the surface. Because the people who thrive in their 30s and 40s, they aren't the ones who knew everything. They're the ones who questioned everything until it made sense. So when you hear the next hot take, guru pitch, or viral strategy, pause and do what most people won't. Think, research, filter, clarify. That's how you build confidence that isn't naive but earned. And that's how you stop being a follower and start becoming the architect of your own path. Chapter 7: Think long, because time is your richest asset. When you're in your 20s, it's easy to feel like you're already behind. You scroll through Instagram and see friends earning 5 figures a month, people getting married, buying houses, posting their success stories like they figured it all out. And suddenly, you panic. I'm falling behind. I need to catch up. I should be doing more. But here's a truth no one tells you. In your 20s, you're not behind, you're early. And time is your greatest compounder. Ask anyone in their 40s or 50s. They'll say the same thing. I wish I had started earlier. I wish I didn't waste that decade chasing the wrong things. So don't make the same mistake. Don't trade long term peace for short term validation. Don't sacrifice deep roots for surface level applause. Your 20s are not just a phase, they are the foundation of the rest of your life. And whatever you build now will either compound to your freedom or your regret. Think about it like this: You spend 5 years learning a skill deeply in your 20s. It can make you millions by your 30s and 40s. You start investing small and consistently now. Your 40-year-old self might never need to worry about money again. You develop emotional mastery and resilience today. Your future relationships, business, and parenting will all benefit. But if you spend this decade chasing every trend, starting and quitting over and over, living for weekend dopamine hits, building nothing with roots, then one day you look back and say, I was busy, but I built nothing that lasted. I grew older, but not deeper. So pause. What are you building that still matters in 10 years? What version of yourself are you becoming? What systems or assets will compound beyond your effort? Because youth tricks you into believing you have unlimited time. But that's the biggest lie. You don't have time to waste, but you do have enough time to win if you use it well. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. Don't just chase speed, chase direction. Because consistency compounds, habits harden, and the life you build today becomes the life you live tomorrow. Chapter 8. Build self awareness, then build your money system. Most people think their 20s are about chasing the right answer, the perfect job, the best investment, the ultimate side hustle, the one path that'll unlock everything. But here's the truth, there's no perfect system, only the system that fits you. And that system starts with one thing, self awareness. Because without it, you'll keep buying courses you never finish. You'll copy other people's paths and wonder why you still feel lost. You'll sabotage your money, your habits, your peace without knowing why. Think about it. You don't overspend because of math. You overspend because of emotion. You don't delay action because you're lazy. You delay because of hidden fear, doubt, or identity wounds. That's why real financial growth doesn't start with a budget. It starts with a mirror. Once you understand what drives you, what limits you, what patterns you're repeating, and what beliefs you've inherited, then you can design a life and money system that actually works for you. Not one that's built on comparison, not one that's borrowed from influences, but one rooted in your rhythm, your values, and your reality. Because money isn't just numbers, it's behavior, it's identity, it's self respect, played out in transactions. And if you don't see the subconscious patterns driving you, you'll keep repeating what you hate and calling it fate. Final truth, your 20s don't need a new plan, they need a mirror. There's no one size fits all blueprint. And that's the beauty of this decade. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. You're supposed to explore, fail, learn, and adapt. But if there's one thing you can't skip, it's knowing yourself. Because self awareness compounds faster than any stock or real estate. It improves your decisions, it sharpens your identity, it makes life feel lighter because you stop fighting your own patterns. That's why I created the Money Mirror, a free personality test designed to help you uncover the blind spots, beliefs, and behaviors secretly driving your financial life. Take the test, look at your reflection. You don't need a new job, you need a new mirror. And it starts today. Link in the description and hit the subscribe button. I will see you in the next one.